Does anyone have a question to ask? I spoke earlier today about how the very nature of this meditation practice has to do with some kind of rebellion. And by rebellion, I don't mean rebellion against the social order and society. And there's really nothing that anyone can do about all that insanity. It's rebellion against the inner stagnation, the inner lack of development. Rebellion really, in its deepest, most profound sense, is a rebellion against ourselves, not disliking ourselves, not hating ourselves, but simply saying, I need to go deeper. I need to ask more. I need to open more. I need to break down that static energy inside myself, that thing in me that just accepts whatever level I'm living on and thinks there's nothing else. I mean, this is an important form of rebellion because it's a very positive rebellion. We're not trying to tear down the walls of Congress and, and all that kind of nonsense, which doesn't really amount to anything, but trying to transform ourselves, trying to change ourselves, rebelling against that part of us that procrastinates all the time, that part of us that takes life for granted, that part of us that doesn't see the miracle of what it is to be alive, the magical nature of whatever we're involved with, I mean, this is the kind of rebellion that is very positive because the possibilities of change are enormous, Once we get it into our system to say it's enough, I need to go deeper. I need to open more. So we're not, it's not the French Revolution and the Russian Revolution and the American, you tear down one government to have another government that's just as insane. It's really opening in depth and transforming ourselves. Now, when we transform ourselves, we have, mastery of ourselves. We have the power over ourselves, not to allow ourselves to slip back into, for a better word, mediocrity or stagnation, lethargy, boredom, to recognize that every breath we take is a miracle. Every breath we take, defines our connection or how deeply we're connected to God. Does anyone have a question? So it's not beating yourself up. It's not being angry at yourself. It's not any of that. It's simply transforming one's internal life into a spiritual life. That's it. And the wonderful thing about all this is we have all the tools, we have everything that can make it possible. It's just a matter of focusing, concentrating, committing oneself and doing it.
Stuart, I have a question.
Does anyone have a question they would like? I mean, I'm
Stuart,
not saying, I mean, most of you are doing that. You're here for that. And you come again and again and again, exactly for that reason. And it makes me very grateful to see people, making that kind of commitment. Does anyone have a question they would like to ask?
Stuart, can you hear me?
Somebody has a question?
Yes. I often struggle asking for help. Can you talk about the nature of receiving?
Hmm. Listen, I talk about it a lot. I can continue to talk about it. It's really impossible to communicate, to give unconditionally in this life unless you can receive unconditionally. It's impossible to truly involve yourself in a real conversation with anyone unless you listen to them and receive what they're saying to you. It's impossible to function in this world without giving with gratitude and receive. I mean, you go into a grocery store, you give money with gratitude, you get food. You have to receive the food. It's not to be angry at the food and angry at they're charging you money. It's what life is all about. It's about giving and receiving. And unless we can receive unconditionally from people, with our hearts open, with love, and, giving is kind of a controlling effort. I mean, people that are philanthropists, people that spend their whole life doing and doing and doing and doing for everybody, and nobody won't allow anybody to do anything for them. They're people whose very life force is draining out of them. And you often look at those people and they're like, they're kind of like flayed. I mean, Tibetans have these flayed tiger skin rugs. I mean, they kind of look like that because all the energy keeps pouring out. Nothing comes back. This class is about receiving. And it's about surrendering the blocks inside yourself that don't allow you to receive. You're not worthy of receiving. That's one of the big ones. The person doesn't feel worthy of receiving. Well, if you're not worthy of receiving, how do you ever become a servant of God? It's impossible. It means you've blocked off that higher energy. You keep it from entering your system because you are not worthy of receiving. It's the same way in a relationship with another human being. You have to be worthy of giving and receiving. Otherwise, that relationship is not going to work. Rudy's last words were a deepest sense of surrender. Now, that deepest sense of surrender enabled him in his life to receive endlessly from higher energy and to use that energy as a means of fueling his chakra system and growing inside himself. People that are skeptical, people that are cynical, people that don't trust anybody, these are people that have created enormous, blocks between themselves and other human beings. People that can never admit they're wrong or be willing to make up the difference in a situation. people that are right all the time. They don't listen. They don't receive anything that's being told to them. And reception, I mean, even TVs, they receive energy. Cars get gas. I always talk about that, kid around about it. This computer works because it's plugged into the wall to an energy force. It's receiving energy. It's people that create all these defense mechanisms inside and build up this incredible blockage inside themselves that says, I know better. I'm cynical. I don't believe my opinion, is more important than what somebody else is saying to me. It's like Voltaire once said, what was it he said? I don't believe in what you say, but I give my life for your right to say it. To defer to another human being. Allow other people to teach us. It's not possible if we don't receive what they're teaching us. Even if they're just sending crap at us, it's teaching us something that we need to know about growth. And you can't learn those teachings unless you're willing to receive them. And the deeper you open from inside, the more teachers you have in this world. That's really true.
Thank
So
you.
receiving is really one of the keys to spiritual growth. And in order to receive, you got to overcome yourself. You can't be stuck behind all of these walls that we build inside ourselves that keep the world out. We know better. Nobody knows better. I mean, Einstein stood there one day and said, I don't understand anything. It must be God. Einstein, the biggest minds of the 20th century. It must be God. I don't understand anything. The same thing with Tolstoy, wrote the greatest novels, maybe of the 19th century. Ran away from home. They found him lying in a train station in the middle of a snowstorm, just mumbling, I don't know anything about life. I have to learn. I have to receive the teachings that life will give me. He was 82 years old. Wrote probably, War and Peace and Anna Karenina, one of the greatest novels written in the 19th century. In the 20th, forget the 20th century. Two of the greatest novels ever written. Qualify that. Teach me. I don't know anything. And with all the stuff that comes out of me, I can honestly admit to you, I don't know anything. I have never planned a talk that I've ever given in the last 50 years. It's just comes because I'm open to receive it. And the best way to be open to receive anything is you got to surrender your position, whoever you are. I learned that from Rudy. First time I taught a meditation class, after the class, came up, gave me a big hug. He was happier than I was, that I was taught the class. And then he said to me, look, next year in Big Indian, first I'll teach, then you'll teach, then we'll show cartoons. I just instantly was reminded that if I don't keep my shit together, I can be easily replaced by Bugs Bunny. You know? And how do you keep your shit together? You got to be wrong. You can't, if you're wrong, you can make up the difference. You can learn something. If you're right all the time, where do you go? It's a dead end. Nobody can even talk to you. You can't receive anything. You have to be right all the time. Good question. Sorry.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question they would like to ask? Okay, if there are no more questions, thank you. God bless you all. You all be well. Have a great weekend. There'll be class on Sunday. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart.
Good night.
Good night.